7 Little Johnstons, Trent and Amber under fire for discriminating between bio-daughter Liz and adopted one Anna, always blames her for family problems. For nearly a decade, TLC's reality series 7 Little Johnstons has offered viewers an intimate look into the lives of a unique American family, Trent and Amber Johnston, both of whom have achondroplasia, a common form of dwarfism, and their 5 children, 3 biological, Jonah, Elizabeth, Liz, and Emma, and 2 adopted, Anna and Emma, though some sources note only Anna was adopted. The family has clarified that Emma is biological. The show initially captivated audiences with its uplifting message of inclusivity, resilience, and the power of unconditional love within a family where every member shares the same genetic condition. However, as the series has progressed into its later seasons, a growing chorus of fans, critics, and even former supporters have raised serious concerns about what appears to be a consistent pattern of favoritism, emotional imbalance, and unequal treatment, particularly between biological daughter Liz and adopted daughter Anna. At the heart of the controversy is the perception that Trent and Amber consistently hold Anna to a different, often harsher standard than their other children, especially Liz, and frequently scapegoat her for family conflicts, emotional outbursts, or household tensions. While reality television is inherently edited for drama and narrative arcs, the recurring nature of these dynamics across multiple seasons has led many to question whether this reflects deeper issues of unconscious bias, adoption-related trauma, or even emotional neglect within the Johnston household. When 7 Little Johnstons premiered in 2015, it was hailed as groundbreaking. Here was a family where dwarfism wasn't a limitation but a shared identity, a source of strength and connection. Trent and Amber's decision to adopt Anna, knowing she also had achondroplasia, was portrayed as deeply intentional and compassionate. They wanted Anna to grow up in a home where her stature wouldn't make her feel different, where she'd be surrounded by people who truly understood her lived experience. This narrative resonated with viewers, especially adoptive families and those in the disability community. In the early seasons, Anna was often shown as sweet, curious, and integrated into the family fabric. The Johnstons emphasized that blood doesn't make a family, a mantra repeated in interviews and on-screen voiceovers. Amber, in particular, spoke passionately about how Anna was just as much ours as any biological child. The family appeared harmonious, their love seemingly unconditional. But as the children entered adolescence, a period already fraught with identity formation, emotional volatility, and boundary testing, the cracks began to show. And it was Anna who increasingly found herself at the center of those fractures. Starting around season 5 and accelerating in seasons 6 through 10, a noticeable shift occurred in how Anna was portrayed, and, more importantly, how Trent and Amber responded to her behavior compared to that of her siblings. While all teenagers experience mood swings and conflicts, viewers observed that Anna's emotional expressions were consistently framed as defiant, manipulative, or dramatic, whereas similar behaviors from Liz were often excused, minimized, or attributed to stress or personality. For example, in multiple episodes, when arguments erupted between Anna and Liz, Trent and Amber almost invariably sided with Liz, sometimes without hearing Anna's side. In one particularly controversial scene, Anna expressed frustration over feeling excluded from a family event. Instead of validating her feelings, Amber dismissed her, saying, "You always make everything about you," while simultaneously comforting Liz, who had been visibly upset by Anna's tone. The editing may have played a role, but the pattern repeated so often that fans began documenting instances online, creating threads titled, "Why does Anna always get blamed?" and "Is Anna the family scapegoat?" Moreover, disciplinary actions appeared uneven. When Jonah or Liz broke house rules, staying out past curfew, skipping chores, or speaking disrespectfully, they were typically given gentle reminders or light consequences. Anna, however, faced swift and severe repercussions, being grounded for weeks, losing privileges, or being publicly reprimanded on camera. In one episode, Anna was denied a family trip to Disney World, a reward promised to all the kids for good behavior, because she had a bad attitude the week prior, while Liz, who had argued with Amber just days before, was allowed to go. Supporters of the Johnstons argue that the perceived favoritism isn't about biology versus adoption but about personality differences. Liz is often described as easygoing, responsible, and mature, while Anna is labeled emotional, impulsive, and sensitive. Trent and Amber have occasionally alluded to this on the show, suggesting that Anna simply requires more structure and correction. However, critics counter that labeling a child as difficult can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially when that label is applied disproportionately. Psychological research shows that when parents consistently interpret a child's behavior through a negative lens, it can erode the child's self-esteem and reinforce the very behaviors they're trying to correct. For an adopted child, who may already grapple with feelings of abandonment, insecurity, or not truly belonging, this dynamic can be especially damaging. Furthermore, the fact that Anna is the only non-biological child in the household, aside from potential confusion around Emma's status, which the family has clarified, makes the disparity even more concerning. Adoption experts emphasize that adoptive parents must be hyper-aware of unintentional bias. Subtle cues like tone of voice, physical affection, or allocation of attention can signal to a child that they are less than. In 7 Little Johnstons, viewers have noted that Amber often hugs Liz spontaneously but rarely initiates physical affection with Anna. Trent frequently praises Liz's accomplishments on camera but rarely acknowledges Anna's efforts unless prompted. That said, even within the constraints of reality TV, consistent patterns over multiple seasons and years suggest something more than mere editing. If Anna were occasionally portrayed negatively for storyline purposes, it might be dismissed as production manipulation. But when the same child is repeatedly cast as the antagonist across dozens of episodes, while her biological sister is consistently framed as the victim or the good kid, it raises legitimate questions about what's happening behind the cameras. Moreover, the Johnstons are not passive participants, they co-produce the show and have significant creative input. Trent and Amber have spoken in interviews about how they review footage and shape story arcs. This means they are aware of how their children are being portrayed, and have chosen, season after season, to allow Anna to be shown in this light. The fan reaction has been swift and vocal. On platforms like Reddit, Twitter, now X, and TikTok, thousands of viewers have expressed concern for Anna's well-being. Hashtags like #JusticeForAnna and #AnnaDeservesBetter have trended during new episode releases. Many commenters share personal stories of being the black sheep in their families or of experiencing similar dynamics as adoptees. One Reddit user wrote, "I was adopted, and I saw myself in Anna. My parents loved me, but I always felt like I had to earn it, while my bio siblings got love freely. It breaks my heart to see her cry on screen and no one comfort her." Others point out that Anna's emotional reactions, crying, yelling, withdrawing, are normal responses to feeling unheard or unfairly treated. Yet on the show, these are framed as tantrums or manipulation, further stigmatizing her. Even more troubling are the comments from viewers who speculate that Anna may be struggling with undiagnosed mental health issues, possibly exacerbated by years of feeling like the family outsider. While the Johnstons have occasionally mentioned therapy, they've never shown Anna receiving consistent emotional support or family counseling that includes accountability from Trent and Amber. When confronted about the allegations of favoritism, Trent and Amber have offered mixed responses. In a 2022 podcast interview, Amber insisted, "We love all our kids the same. Anna just has a harder time expressing herself in healthy ways." Trent added, "Parenting isn't one size fits all. We adjust based on each kid's needs." While this sounds reasonable in theory, critics argue that adjusting shouldn't mean singling out one child for blame while excusing the same behaviors in others. Healthy parenting involves recognizing individual needs while maintaining fairness and emotional safety for all children. Notably, neither Trent nor Amber has ever publicly acknowledged the fan concerns about Anna's treatment in a meaningful way. There's been no statement addressing the perception of bias, no on-screen conversation where they reflect on their parenting choices, and no visible effort to repair the dynamic with Anna in a transparent manner. Instead, the show continues to recycle the same narrative: Anna causes problems, the family reacts, Anna is punished or isolated. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this storyline is its effect on Anna herself. Now in her late teens, she appears increasingly withdrawn on camera. Where once she smiled readily and engaged with her siblings, she now often sits silently in the background, arms crossed, eyes downcast. In a recent episode, when Liz celebrated a milestone birthday with a lavish party, Anna was shown sitting alone in her room, scrolling on her phone, a stark visual metaphor for her emotional isolation. In one rare moment of vulnerability, Anna told the camera, "Sometimes I wonder if they'd even notice if I wasn't here." The comment sparked an outpouring of concern online, yet it was never addressed by her parents on the show. No follow-up conversation, no hug, no reassurance. The moment was left hanging, another unresolved wound in a series that claims to be about family unity. The Seven Little Johnstons controversy touches on larger societal issues surrounding adoption, disability, and family dynamics. Adopted children, especially those adopted transracially or into families where they are the only non-biological member, often face an invisible burden, the need to prove their worthiness of love. When parents unconsciously treat biological and adopted children differently, even in subtle ways, it reinforces the adoptee's deepest fear: I don't truly belong. For Anna, this is compounded by the fact that her adoption was framed as a perfect match due to shared dwarfism. While well-intentioned, this narrative can unintentionally place pressure on the child to be grateful or easy because they were chosen for a specific reason. Any deviation from that ideal, normal teenage rebellion, emotional needs, or personality differences, can then be seen as a betrayal of that narrative. At this point, Seven Little Johnstons stands at a crossroads. It can continue down the path of portraying Anna as the perpetual problem, reinforcing harmful stereotypes about adopted children and emotional expression. Or it can use its platform to model growth, accountability, and healing. This would require Trent and Amber to do something rarely seen on reality TV: admit they might be wrong. They could initiate a family therapy session on camera, explore their own biases, and actively work to rebuild trust with Anna. They could give her equal airtime, celebrate her strengths, and validate her feelings, even when they're inconvenient or messy. More importantly, they could send a powerful message to millions of viewers, that love in a family isn't about biology, perfection, or performance, it's about showing up, listening, and choosing each other, especially when it's hard. Until then, the shadow over the Johnston household will remain. And Anna, bright, sensitive, and deserving of unconditional love, will continue to bear the weight of being the family's scapegoat, not because she's difficult, but because someone has to carry the burden when fairness is absent. As fans continue to rally behind her, one thing is clear: Anna isn't the problem. The problem is a system, within the family and the show, that refuses to see her as fully equal. And in a series that once promised to redefine what family looks like, that's a betrayal of its own founding promise. Seven Little Johnstons, Trent Johnston's brain issues explained, receives life-altering news from doctors. For over a decade, viewers have tuned into Seven Little Johnstons to follow the extraordinary yet relatable journey of the Johnston family, a household where every member lives with achondroplasia, a form of dwarfism. From navigating everyday challenges to celebrating major milestones, Trent and Amber Johnston, along with their 5 children, Jonah, Elizabeth, Emma, Anna, and Alex, have offered audiences a window into a life defined by resilience, humor, and unwavering familial support. But in recent seasons, a new and deeply personal chapter has unfolded, one that has shifted the focus from the family's collective experiences to Trent's individual health struggles. Behind the scenes, and now increasingly in front of the camera, Trent Johnston has been grappling with a series of neurological issues that have culminated in life-altering news from his doctors, sending shockwaves through the family and raising urgent questions about his future. Trent, the patriarch of the Johnston family and a central figure on the TLC reality series, has long been portrayed as the steady, pragmatic force within the household. Known for his dry wit, steadfast work ethic, and deep devotion to his family, Trent has often shouldered the role of protector and provider. However, in recent years, subtle changes began to emerge, moments of forgetfulness, uncharacteristic confusion, and episodes of disorientation that couldn't be easily brushed aside. Initially, both Trent and Amber attributed these lapses to stress, lack of sleep, or the natural wear and tear of parenting 5 children while managing a busy household and business ventures. But as the symptoms persisted and intensified, it became clear that something more serious was at play. The first major red flag came during a routine family trip. Trent, who typically handles logistics with military precision, found himself unable to recall basic directions or remember where the family had parked their vehicle. On another occasion, he struggled to recall the names of close friends or even the details of recent conversations with his own children. These incidents, though alarming, were initially downplayed. But when Trent began experiencing episodes of dizziness, blurred vision, and difficulty maintaining balance, symptoms far beyond typical forgetfulness, the family knew it was time to seek professional medical evaluation. What followed was a grueling series of diagnostic tests, specialist consultations, and neurological assessments. Doctors ordered MRIs, CT scans, cognitive evaluations, and blood work in an effort to pinpoint the root cause of Trent's deteriorating condition. The process was emotionally taxing for the entire family, especially for Amber, who watched helplessly as her husband, the rock of their family, became increasingly vulnerable. For the first time in their marriage, Trent was not the one offering reassurance. Instead, he leaned heavily on Amber's strength as they navigated an uncertain medical landscape together. After months of testing and consultations with neurologists, the diagnosis finally came. Trent was suffering from a rare but serious neurological condition linked to abnormal pressure buildup in the brain, specifically, a disorder known as idiopathic intracranial hypertension, IIH, sometimes referred to as pseudotumor cerebri. While IIH is more commonly diagnosed in women of childbearing age, it can affect men as well, particularly those with certain risk factors or underlying health conditions. In Trent's case, the condition had likely been developing silently for years, exacerbated by factors such as sleep apnea, a condition he had previously been diagnosed with, and possibly genetic predispositions. Idiopathic intracranial hypertension occurs when the pressure of the cerebrospinal fluid surrounding the brain increases without a clear cause. This elevated pressure can compress the optic nerves, leading to vision problems, and can also affect cognitive function, balance, and overall neurological health. Left untreated, IIH can result in permanent vision loss or other serious complications. For someone like Trent, whose daily life involves driving, managing finances, and engaging in physical labor around the house, the implications were profound. The initial treatment plan involved medications to reduce fluid production and alleviate pressure, along with lifestyle modifications and close monitoring. Trent was prescribed diuretics and advised to lose weight, improve his sleep hygiene, and avoid activities that could increase intracranial pressure, such as heavy lifting or straining. At first, there was cautious optimism. The family hoped that with proper management, Trent's symptoms would subside and life could return to normal. But the reality proved far more complicated. Despite adhering to the treatment regimen, Trent's condition continued to worsen. His vision became increasingly impaired, forcing him to stop driving, a significant blow to his independence. He began experiencing chronic headaches described as excruciating, often leaving him bedridden for hours. Cognitive tasks that once came easily, balancing the checkbook, helping the kids with homework, even following the plot of a TV show, now required immense effort. The man who once fixed everything around the house now struggled to remember how to operate the coffee maker. It was during a follow-up appointment with a leading neurologist at a major medical center that Trent received the life-altering news that would redefine his future. The doctor explained that Trent's IIH had progressed to a point where medication alone was no longer sufficient. The pressure in his brain remained dangerously high, and his optic nerves were showing signs of damage. Without immediate and more aggressive intervention, Trent risked permanent blindness, and possibly irreversible cognitive decline. The recommended course of action was surgical, a procedure known as a ventriculoperitoneal (VP) shunt. This involves implanting a thin tube into the brain's ventricles to drain excess cerebrospinal fluid into the abdominal cavity, where it can be absorbed by the body. While VP shunts are a well-established treatment for conditions involving increased intracranial pressure, they are not without risks. Complications can include infection, shunt malfunction, bleeding, or the need for repeated surgeries over time. For Trent, already managing the physical realities of achondroplasia, which can complicate anesthesia and surgical positioning. The procedure carried additional layers of risk. The decision weighed heavily on Trent and Amber. On one hand, the surgery offered the best chance to halt the progression of his condition and preserve what remained of his vision and cognitive function. On the other, it meant subjecting Trent to a major operation with no guarantee of full recovery. After tearful discussions, consultations with multiple specialists, and heartfelt conversations with their children, the couple made the difficult choice to move forward with the surgery. The days leading up to the procedure were filled with a mix of fear, hope, and raw vulnerability. The Johnston children, now young adults, rallied around their father, taking on more household responsibilities and offering emotional support. Jonah, the eldest, stepped up to help manage family logistics, while Elizabeth and Emma organized meal trains and care schedules. Anna and Alex, though younger, made cards and videos to lift Trent's spirits. Amber, ever the anchor, maintained a brave face in public but admitted in private moments to feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of what lay ahead. The surgery itself lasted several hours. The family waited in tense silence, their faith and love the only things holding them together. When the surgeon finally emerged to report that the procedure had gone as well as could be expected, there was a collective sigh of relief, but also the understanding that the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. In the weeks following the surgery, Trent faced a new reality. The shunt helped reduce the pressure in his brain, and his headaches lessened significantly. His vision stabilized, though some damage appeared to be permanent. More challenging, however, was the cognitive and emotional toll. Trent experienced fatigue, mood swings, and moments of frustration as he adjusted to his new limitations. Simple tasks required planning and patience. He had to relearn how to pace himself, accept help, and redefine what it meant to be a provider and protector. Yet through it all, the Johnston family's resilience shone brightly. They adapted their routines, modified their home for greater accessibility, and leaned into their deep bonds. Trent, ever the pragmatist, began sharing his journey openly, not just with his family, but with their audience. In recent episodes of 7 Little Johnstons, viewers have seen raw, unfiltered moments of Trent's struggle, him fumbling with his phone, needing reminders for appointments, or sitting quietly while the kids take the lead on a project he once would have spearheaded. These scenes are not staged for drama, they are honest portrayals of a man confronting his mortality and redefining his role within his family. Perhaps the most profound change has been in Trent's perspective. Where once he defined himself by his ability to fix, build, and provide, he now finds meaning in presence, in showing up, even on hard days, and in modeling vulnerability for his children. He's spoken about how this experience has taught him to slow down, to listen more, and to appreciate the small moments that once seemed mundane. For fans of the show, Trent's journey has been a sobering reminder that even the strongest among us are not immune to health crises. It has also highlighted the importance of early intervention, the complexities of neurological conditions, and the power of family in the face of adversity. While the future remains uncertain, shunts can fail, conditions can evolve, what is clear is that the Johnstons will face it together, with honesty, love, and the same indomitable spirit that has defined them from the beginning. Trent Johnston's brain issues may have altered the trajectory of his life, but they have not diminished his role as a father, husband, or leader. If anything, they have deepened his humanity, and in doing so, have given viewers a far more powerful story than any scripted drama could provide.